Hello there. I'm back with another game from the Opera Eurorapid. This has nothing to do with the Opera game. It's Opera, the browser, apparently, sponsoring this event on the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. Now the People's Champ is back. Daniil Dubov. We love him. He plays, he tries to revive old gambits, interesting ideas, find his own ideas. And his game against Karakin, of course, we've seen that one. The Queen sack and the line where he played d4, the delayed Urusov Gambit. Great stuff. I've seen people employing this in blitz with very good results. So I want to look at this game he played against Anish Giri. Anish Giri coming off a great performance at Tata Steel. Painfully close to his first Super Tournament win, but lost in the Armageddon. Nonetheless, successful tournament. So he's on a... well... I want to say it's on a high, but I guess the Armageddon left a bad taste. But anyway, Dubov goes for e4. And let's see what's in store for us. Bishop c4. Now, I will give you some ideas to play this maybe for white. Something of course, you have to look into it yourself. If you like the ideas I'm presenting, maybe we can make a more dedicated video about this line that Dubov is playing. But he plays here bishop c4. And this can be good for you if you want to avoid... the damn Stafford. If you play knight f3, all these Stafford Gambit aficionados, they hope for this. They're evil traps. But if you play bishop c4, you're already preventing it. So bishop c4 is kind of an anti-Petrov, and Petrov can lead to the Stafford, so anti-Petrov or Stafford. And usually what black does is play knight f6 and try to play for something like this. I can give you an idea to play if they play knight c6. Maybe you can play for f4, play knight c6, play d3, and try to play for f4. f4 and f5 eventually, because it delayed the development of this knight. So that's something to look into if they play knight c6. But knight f6 is the most common move. That's what Giri played. And now Dubov played the Urusov Gambit. The Urusov Gambit. Played by Dubov. The Dubusov Gambit? Wait. Okay. Anyway. Interesting gambit, but maybe not a fascinating reputation, but definitely interesting. And you can catch people in this. So okay, d4. And Anish took. And black sort of has to take. It's already too late to play d6, you can take on e5. So you kind of have to resolve the tension in the center, either by taking on d4, taking on e4 actually looks dubious after this. The knight is a bit dodgy, already threatening this. I wouldn't feel great here. So e takes d4 is the move. But now we play knight f3. We invite black to take another pawn. And that's the pure Urusov Gambit. Now what can happen here if they take the pawn? We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to take on d4. We have to move the knight back. f5 is very dubious. Let's say we go knight f6. And now I'm going to show you a very quick game. Avruk against Skripchenko. I remember seeing this game in an article in New in Chess. And look at the development. Everything comes out. d5. Long castles. You can't take the piece because this hangs. So bishop b7. Protecting. But here, okay, breaking the pin. But white doesn't care, centralizes everything, sacks a piece, gives black the double pawns, brings the knight in, knight f5, and white won a very nice game here. Rook e4, the rook is coming over, and let's just play it through because it wasn't very long. Queen takes f7, rook takes d7, if you take there's queen takes f6, black tried this, taking on f5, but the rook e8 and resigns. We're threatening to take here, and nothing to be done but postpone the mate. So a very nice miniature, and this can definitely happen if you get this gambit. The knight could also go to c5, bishop g5, still pieces out, knight c3, and again this castles, and maybe something like this, and similar to the other game, everything centralized, bam, you go for the king. Looks like a lot of fun actually. But full disclosure, bishop b4 might be kind of a test of this line, but if you like gambits, you shouldn't feel too uncomfortable here. In fact, the most common move here is d5, when material becomes equal. If bishop c5, we definitely have some attacking options with e5, bishop d5, etc. But this is, yeah, something to look into, and again, we can maybe have a more dedicated and prepared video for that. But okay, but Anish didn't take on e4, unfortunately. It would have been fun to see what Dubov had in mind if knight takes e4. But knight c6 was played by Giri. And when that happens, we transpose to the so-called Scotch Gambit. So this would normally arise via a different move order. We're not going to go deeply into that, but from here, white castles, and black takes on e4. Kind of has to do that, otherwise white might push e5. So knight takes e4. Actually, instead of castling, the other move is to push e5. So you have to make, if you're going to play this, you have to make up your mind. Do you want to play with e5 or castles? And yeah, this is completely different here or here. I mean, Gavin Jones likes to play this and has decent success with it in at least online play. I think also in classical games. But okay, on with the game. Castles. Giri took on e4, rook to e1, and d5. So when I was young, I used to play this with white and black. Very common theory. You take on d5, you play knight c3. Now when I was young, everybody used to play queen a5. We took on e4, we played knight g5, and black gave the pawn back by castling, queen side, takes, and rook takes e6. And did Dubov have some ideas in this line? He must have had an idea here. That being said, computer says it's about equal, and I believe that's where theory stands. Both sides have their ideas, but you need to know a little bit what to do here. So some preparation should be in order if you want to play this. But Giri played queen d8, so maybe he was afraid of what Dubov had in mind, wanted to have more of a quiet game. But rook takes e4 check, bishop e7, and knight takes d4. Now Giri castled, trying to play it safe, but white keeps an annoying little initiative, which leads to an edge and winning material. The main move is f5 here, and I bet you that Dubov had in mind to play bishop h6 here. Typical, you know, this is the kind of move you want to slam on your opponent. Bishop h6, bam! Now if they take the rook, we take here. We're going to get the rook on h8. You can't play this because check, and then check. We take on g8 next. If you play bishop d6, you can do that, but we go to the bar, checkmate. Also, if you take the bishop, queen h5, and we actually just play this position down a piece. The rook is fantastically placed. This is hanging. Black is going down. That being said, king f8, and black is actually doing okay. But okay, castles by Giri and bishop f4. So Giri wants to resolve the tension. He plays bishop to f6, putting pressure on d4. Dubov takes, we have trades, and rook c4. He simply wants to win this pawn, attacking this and attacking this. And Stockfish is a big fan of white's position. Looks like white will win a pawn in most lines. So Giri goes for the c2 pawn. So still even on material, but we're going to win c7. Knight d5. Very nice move. Avoiding the opposite colored bishops for now. So if we had taken first here on c7, maybe black takes and hopes to hold the opposite colored bishops. But now he has to suffer a little bit longer. Also we're threatening this, so bishop d8. And again, computer loves white here. Wants to take it slow. Just play prophylactic move, f3, anticipating this move, making luft for the king, and then taking c7, and then trying to convert the extra pawn. Dubov took the pawn immediately, took on c7. We have rook e8, making luft with h3 now, bishop back to e6. The rook comes back, bishop g5, and here we have a little dance where Dubov moves the pawns, and then Anish goes back. Again, he wants to trade because then we have opposite color bishops, which give him some chances to hold. For now, this is hanging. So g4 by Dubov. And probably the best move here was bishop h4 back to disrupt white a little bit, you know, threatening bishop e1, and white has to spend a move. But rook ac8, and Dubov should be doing better here. After king g2, we had f5 and g5. So Giri trying to get some foothold. He didn't want to get crossed by the pawns, but on the other hand, this is now a monster piece, and you always have to worry about penetration on the 7th and this becoming too weak. So king f7, trying to activate the king, but now knight c7, and this forces black's hand because this is attacked, and this so takes, and bishop b4, a nice trick to win back the exchange. And now Dubov is up a pawn, but is it enough? We'll have to see. Rook e7, a4. Dubov wants to keep the rooks on, of course, because otherwise black is near to a draw. It's a good general rule. If you have opposite colored bishops, you're up a pawn, you want to keep the rooks on in such a case because you can press on the dark squares. If you trade the rooks, the draw is usually too easy. So here we have a trade of the a pawns, which means that now at least we have passed pawn. Also we have some space on the king side. And Dubov tries to use it here with h5, and now king h4. Don't have time to protect because this hangs. Bishop king e8, bishop f6, bishop e6. Now Dubov took, and here an interesting situation. The king is pressing, but it's also a bit vulnerable. c4 is played, king f7, and c5. Now rook d1 by Anish, and he's threatening mate. And the king can't go anywhere. Can we do something about it? Well, Dubov started checking. Okay, white has at least a perpetual check. Check, 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 and then the rook went to a1. However, after king f8, white is winning here. After rook takes h7. Dubov missed this. Now if you check, I obviously just take the bishop. So let's take the rook. But wait, there's still mate, right? And you can't play g6 because king takes f6. But there's bishop g7. And the bishop will come to h6. And then we push. You can't stop me from pushing, but wait a minute, I have another pawn. I'm going to push it. And once you chase that, it's game over, g6, g7, gg. So a missed win by Dubov. But lo and behold, rook a1, rook d2. Again threatening mate. You have to do something about it, and Dubov goes for the jacks. But what does he do? He keeps jacking. And here he played 53, rook a8, we have repetition, and a draw. And he could have again taken on h7. So a dreadful missed win. It would have been lovely for him to get rewarded for his ambitious opening play, his interesting gambit style, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Very well prepared, and I would have liked to see what would have happened if we have gotten the proper Urusov Gambit with knight takes e4, but maybe next time, who knows. Anyway, Daniil Dubov remains the people's champion. See you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.